All right, and welcome to Fast Break Breakfast NBA Podcast. My name is Keith Parrish. I got Mo Dakhil coming up in just a little bit. We debate the value of Dillon Brooks. We talk a lot about the referees starting to enforce traveling, and we talk maybe some other rules changes that could be useful, like modifying the charge rule. We also pick some teams that we think are rounding into and out of shape at this quarter mark of the season. On Thursday night, there was only one game, kind of a weird scheduling quirk, and the only game was the Detroit Pistons against the Mavericks, and the Pistons won. Despite Tim Hardaway Jr. finally making some shots, Hardaway had 26 to help out Luka Doncic, but the Mavericks could not overcome Bojan Bogdanovic and Killian Hayes. Killian Hayes had a huge game, hit a couple of dagger three-pointers in overtime. It was complete madness. He murdered my negative fantasy team. The Mavericks have now lost 5 out of 6. They are under 500. The one win in that 6-game stretch was against the Warriors, so a good win there. Tim Hardaway Jr. also had a good game in that one, making some threes to help him get the victory, but it wasn't enough for the Mavericks on Thursday night against the Pistons. The most notable news since my last episode was probably Devin Booker dropping 50 points in 3 quarters. We'll call that a flawless performance on Wednesday. On Friday night, a lot of things to look forward to. There's the return of Chris Middleton. He's planning to make his season debut for a Bucks team that is 15-5. We got Heat Celtics. The Pacers and Jazz play in a matchup of the two teams that probably have the most surprising records so far this season. Also, DeAnthony Melton makes his return to Memphis, coming to the FedEx Forum for Sixers and Grizzlies. If you're looking for holiday gifts this season, well, one thing you can give is the gift of Grizzlies. You can buy your friends and family 6-game holiday packs. They start at just $26 per game. These holiday packs feature the best matchups and giveaways, including games against the Warriors, Lakers, Mavs, and more. So skip them all, avoid the crowds, and warm up this season with Grizzlies 6-game holiday packs. To get your holiday packs, call 901-888-HOOP or shop online now at grizzlies.com. All right, now let's talk with Mo Dakhil. I'm joined right now by Mo Dakhil. Mo, how's it going?
Oh, going great, man. I am fired up, Keith. Let's go.
That is a little bit too much energy for me. It's early where you are, man. It's like 8 a.m. Why are you so excited, dude?
Oh, I'm fired up. It's Pac-12 championship day. This might change. Within 12 hours, I might be a very depressed human being. But Keith, as soon as I'm done here, I'm hopping in the car and driving to Las Vegas to watch my USC Trojans take on the Fighting Utes of Utah for the Pac-12 championship.
I love Vegas. I'm very happy for you. I did not know college football was ever played in Las Vegas. I guess there is a college football team there.
UNLV, where we go to the summer league.
This UNLV, Randall Cunningham was the punter for UNLV, right? Quarterback punter for you. Do I remember that correctly? That's the only UNLV football player I can think of off the top of my head.
Let's go with it. It sounds correct.
Well, I'm excited you get to go to Vegas. Good luck to your college football team. I have stopped following college football, and I'm happy about it. I grew up an Auburn fan, and they made a weird hire.
Yeah, they made.
I just don't need that in my life anymore.
I support that.
Yeah,
I hate the hire they made, but that's for many reasons. We don't
neither here nor there. Mo, it's been a while since you've been on the show. I'll tell you why that is.
Long time.
It's been a while. So here's what happened. I would every now and then reach out to you because most of these times I record these interview episodes on Thursdays. And a lot of times you were recording a show on Thursday, and I would just reach up and, hey man, are you free this Thursday? And you're like, I'm not. And I probably could have worked around that, but when you get that one rejection, you're like, well, I don't need Mo saying no to me again. I think you said no to me like twice in a row, and I'm like, you know what? I can't handle this emotionally. Mo just being like, I can't do it. And I knew you had conflicts, but still, I'm like, I'm going to ask somebody. I'm pretty sure he's going to say yes. and not face the rejection of Mo once again.
I fully support the let's make sure as my dating life through all of high school only ask questions that you're going to get the yes to was pretty much. So I didn't go on any dates. But the Thursdays are crazy days for me because a lot of times I have so many things sandwiched in between recording Nerder She Wrote and the Daily Ding on the Athletic Podcast Network. That's a very seamless plug. I usually squeeze in something of like a doctor's appointment for family or whatever. I do a lot of stuff. I think so. It's like Thursdays are usually my most chaotic days, and the guys who I record Nerder with are usually like, God, I'm like, yo, I got to go, guys. Wrap it up.
Wrap it up. Well, anyways, I'm glad you're back on. As you know, as a long time. I mean, you were on in the early days. You know, we start off with breakfast. It's early West Coast, but you know, you have this big day, travel day planned. What have you put in your body to fuel this exciting day?
I have yet to fuel myself,
but you will.
I will. As I leave, I will pick up Chick-fil-A's mini chicken biscuits. Their breakfast biscuits are absolutely phenomenal, and you put a little honey with that. I
didn't know they allowed Chick-fil-A in California.
They do. They have one. They have one literally down the street from me. It causes all sorts of traffic issues because it's always packed, and it's really what used to take me a minute stretch to just drive down from this stop sign to the traffic light has now at times could take up to 5 minutes because people are trying to maneuver to get into line there. That's where I'm going to go for breakfast today as soon as we're done here.
So now that we've hit the traffic and city planning portion of the show, they did the same thing where they put a Chick-fil-A near my house. And when they put it in, I'm like, well, that's not going to work. Because anywhere there's a Chick-fil-A, there's just there's a traffic jam. And I'm like, what's the plan here? And yeah, it's catastrophic. They ruined a street. And it's like, you knew that was coming. I don't know who, thought it was a good idea.
Is one of the streets like a residential street?
It isn't, but it's a crowded intersection, and they put it like 100 yards off of an intersection. So it's like, well, no one can turn left into it because you're gonna ruin everything. You're not gonna be able to turn left getting out of the place. You will never get out. So yeah, they just plugged. It's like a plugged up a sink. They just they put a blockage in this thoroughfare.
It's amazing. It's amazing because
it's where people stand in line, sit in their cars for 40 minutes
It's so wild to me.
Yeah.
Because it's like there's not even enough room to turn off the major thoroughfare to get into the Chick-fil-A that it actually can cause. I've seen near accidents just for people trying to get into Chick-fil-A. And I'm just like, yo, I'm just trying to get out. Just trying to get onto the freeway, folks. Let's go.
Well, the other night I saw on Twitter, you're always doing these game breakdowns. You're posting game clips. You're very informative. You did, however, say some, I thought, rude things about my guy, Dillon Brooks.
One rude thing.
What was it verbatim? You were like, you basically said this guy's bad.
I said somebody had tweeted out saying that he was a disaster tonight. And I think it was,
yeah. Okay.
And I responded, I go, no, he's a disaster most nights.
Okay, you said Dillon Brooks is a disaster most nights. I can work myself into a way where you could like jokingly call his just reckless abandon a disaster, but I think calling his night-to-night game a disaster is false. But tell me what I'm missing here. I know. No, by the way, and I know he's a very controversial player. I know even Grizzlies fans are split on him, but I've basically I've started aligning myself, I think, with the Church of Dillon Brooks, where I'm a believer.
Of Dillon Brooks. Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
It started really, if you just go back to the playoff series against the Warriors.
Yeah.
Right. Like he takes bad shots.
Yeah.
He does. Listen, he can be a really good defender, except he gambles a ton. He takes unnecessary risks. He constantly puts you in a bad position defensively. And I know what the numbers are saying on-off numbers. Like it's really good in his favor. He will cost you games though. Yeah. Right. And he will just lose his mind on stuff. He will take ridiculous shots. He thinks he should be a star. He should be, if he played more of a Tony Allen type role, different game, obviously, but more of I'm a role player and I'm just going to kick ass at my job.
Yeah.
I would love Dillon Brooks.
In those playoff games you're referring to, was John Morant playing?
Even the one, some he was, some he wasn't, because he was also doing it in the Memphis series, right? Like,
the Minnesota series, yeah. He had a rough Minnesota series, yeah.
But it's like times where he feels like, all right, baby, it's Dillon Brooks.
It's Dillon Brooks time.
I'm going. I don't care who's on the court. And there's those moments you see that stuff, and it's just like, man, that's not the shot you want. That's not, at least to me, it'd be like, all right, cool. You were in a tough spot. You got the ball with 5 seconds on the shot clock, and you tried to make something happen. I'm cool with that. He does that sometimes with 15 seconds on the shot clock. I'm like, no.
Yeah.
Work around, find something better. And he's a very frustrating guy to watch. When he's good and he's having a good game, I can see it. Everybody goes nuts and loves it, this and that. When it's bad, it's really bad.
So so I think that's an important part of it. When he's bad, it's so bad that's what sticks in our brains, I think, more than the good. And I would, again, as someone who's basically been converted into the Dillon religion, my thing is like, he isn't as bad as people remember him being bad type situation. And here's a fun stat for you, Mo. This season, when John Morant and Desmond Bane play, he's only averaging 12 field goal attempts per game. So like, he's chilling out. It just hasn't happened. And then we get the situation against Minnesota where he like fires up Anthony Edwards, and then Anthony Edwards is like, I'm much better than you. I'm now going to destroy you. I'm not going to snap my fingers and disintegrate you.
I can see a world where a few years from now, we're going to start talking about Dillon Brooks the way we talk about Patrick Beverley.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. In a way of like, some people are going to be like, he's a great defender, and other people are like, no, he's not a good defender. I would love to hear, and not Grizzly players, but I would love to hear what his counterparts around the league think of him defensively.
I think I can say this. Andre Iguodala in Las Vegas this summer told me, like, he's like, Dillon Brooks is the reason you guys lost that Warriors series. And but he also said like, but if he turned it off, he wouldn't be in the league. You know, like, if he turned off what makes him go, he wouldn't be an NBA player.
I actually understand that.
Yeah.
From Iguodala's point, and that makes, I mean, basically he's just saying like, this is what drives him. This is how he stays in the league. And you know what? It's probably great in the regular season.
Yeah.
In the playoffs is really when it can hurt you, and we saw it. But it's an interesting sort of situation in how you're doing it, because he's same thing with Patrick Beverley. It's almost making the Patrick Beverley case too.
Yeah.
Patrick Beverley can't turn this off. If he does, he's gone in the next season. Like, I think that's kind of the real question is, can you win a championship with that? And the good side of it, and let's just probably the flip side of it, if you want to point to it, and especially the Warriors, Draymond Green. Right. But is he that good of a defender as Draymond? I just can't ever see Dillon Brooks getting to the point where we're going to talk about him as defensive player of the year. He's not a good enough shooter. I don't see, I feel like there are a lot of stuff there. And it's almost like, if you put a dude that didn't do that in that position, or just a straight 3-and-D guy, which, yes, very hard to find, but just literally just did 3-and-D stuff, you're probably so much better off.
Yeah, that is the argument I'm open to. When people are like, what if all of Dillon's minutes went to, I mean, it would basically be if Desmond Bane's back, if the Grizzlies are fully healthy, what if you just let Conchar do Dillon things? Like, you might have enough offense on the court with Ja and Desmond, and if Jaren is going to be a 19-point per game guy, like, and again, that's an argument I'm open to. Like, okay, I'll try it out. And I fall back to the, like, is this one thing where he can kind of not lose you a game, but melt down to the degree that you lose? I'm not gonna put it all on Dillon. Like, is that a problem that could rear its head in the playoffs? Can you win a championship with him? I mean, these are good problems to have. When you get to the we know he's going to lead us in on-off net rating swing every single season by a lot, but when we get to the postseason, and by the way, he had an amazing postseason against the Jazz 2 years ago.
Absolutely, and it was amazing, right?
Yeah.
Like,
so it's a hard question, but yeah, I don't know.
The fun thing about it, and this is probably the stuff that's kind of unfair about just NBA basketball and stuff. You were the young, plucky upstart in that Jazz series.
Yeah.
where it's like, that's where you need a Dillon Brooks. Now you're the established team, and legitimately, like, this team has a chance and has a core that I feel like is good enough to contend. Maybe not this year. They're close, I think, right now, but like, you just see in the progression of these guys. So it's like, okay, now do we need this guy? And that's the hardest decision you have to make as a team, in terms of like, we're probably not in this position if we don't have Dillon Brooks. But if we're going to get to the next level, do we have to kind of jettison him? And I don't know. And that's the thing you see with teams struggle with all the time, and coaches.
It's gonna be an incredibly hard situation for the Grizzlies. Like you say, like, I think when fully healthy, they might be as good as anyone. I think in the Western Conference, they're as good as anyone. Like, I definitely fear, like the Bucks and the Celtics right now. But like if Desmond Bane has hit this all-star level, which he showed when he played this year, and you got John, you got Desmond, and you got Jaren, who's looked really good this season, maybe they're all better next year, which wouldn't be that surprising. And so, like, if next year is the peak season, or the next 2 years are the peak opportunities for the Grizzlies, having Dillon Brooks as an unrestricted free agent this year, so like, it's a huge question. It's a huge question. He might honestly be. I mean, Dillon's going to be one of the best 3 free agents next, because there are no free agents anymore, because everyone signs an extension. So it's going to be a big question for this Grizzlies front office. Like, do we move on? Because that could be risky to get a replacement, or do you pay him a ton? It's going to be a big problem. But I think we've got enough on Dillon. Let's do something else, something that I think both of us kind of see eye to eye on, maybe unlike Dillon. On Wednesday night, this was really stark in the NBA, and they've been doing it more this season. The referees have been calling travels. And on Wednesday night, they unleashed tons of travel calls. They decided these step back threes, no, we're kind of done with it. Like, if you don't do this letter of the law, we're going to start popping you with traveling calls. I loved it. I back the whistle, I ride with the refs. And I thought making like a game-saving travel call on Steph Curry shooting a step back three. And yeah, I got a little Warriors resentment in my life. I was like, this is beautiful. Thank you for enforcing some of the rules. People are like, how can you call this out of the blue? What do you think, Mo? Is it fair for the referees to start calling traveling maybe kind of out of the blue?
I think so. And I don't think it's so out of the blue. We've been seeing a rise in traveling calls throughout this season. We've also seen a rise in palming the ball calls.
Yeah.
There was a game against Orlando with the Warriors, coincidentally, and they called Jordan Poole for palming the ball. It was either Orlando or Miami. It was one of the Florida teams.
Yeah.
But they called him for multiple palming the ball violations. It even led to Jog saying, I do that. And that stuff. So, it's interesting. What I find funny about the conversation is people get, for the longest time, the NBA doesn't call traveling anymore. Look at this. That should be a travel. That should be a travel. I'll post a clip on Twitter and somebody will be like, Mo, that's a travel. I'm like, the refs don't call it. I don't call it a travel. Unless it's so blatant. But like, now they start calling it and everybody's up in arms. How can you call it? How can you call it? All that stuff. And let's go back to that Steph Curry step back. It was 1,000% a travel. Not all step backs are, but that one was, because he changed his pivot foot.
Yeah.
And that has always been called. It may be tough for a ref to see, and I don't think people give refs enough credit. This is a fast freaking game on the court. And these guys are huge and things like that. And you're trying to keep up with it and trying to see everything. It's difficult. But that was the correct call. He stepped back, established his left foot as his pivot foot, and then switched it to his right foot as his pivot foot. It's a travel by the letter of the law. It wasn't a change in the rule book, wasn't a change in how they call it. They're going to call switching pivot foot a travel every time. So like,
I hope you say every time. I hope they're consistent with it, because I think when James Harden basically invented the step back, I mean, I feel like he did, where people are like, wait, is that legal? And the referees looked at it and were like, that's legal. We got a gather step, and then he's just going backwards too, which is not what people used to do. But like, it's gotten to the point for me, and like, I'm not a huge stickler with like, come on, call the travels, man. I recognize, hey, it's an entertainment product. I also frequently remind people I would rather the refs accidentally miss a travel than accidentally call a travel on something that's legal. Like, I would much rather them err to like let it go. But with the step backs, it's gotten to this point where like sometimes the guys gather, take a step back, and then we'll start pivoting, or then we'll like they won't even shoot. Like, well, you have to shoot or pass after you do those things, and so that's where maybe like my amateur refereeing rises up, my indignation. I'm like, you got to call something. So like I loved it. I really wish they would do it more. I just think it would improve the game, because like it's gotten so weird where honestly I feel like bad players get called for it. Where like, let's say like if Jake LaRavia does a step back move incorrectly, they're going to call it. If a rookie does it, they're going to call it. You know, if Steph does it, they normally don't call it. And I give a ton of credit once again to the referees for, even if they did get like a new, hey, we're focusing on this, if they got some kind of memorandum, like, hey, let's start calling these a little tighter. The ability of a referee to see that, like you said, with 10 seconds left on the clock, to know, hey, that's a travel. We haven't really been enforcing those, but now I'm going to force it. Like, do you realize how good you have to be as an official to understand the footwork and to call that correctly? I thought it was a great moment.
It's not even that. I think the most important thing about that travel call was they were consistent with the way they've been calling travel throughout that game.
Yeah.
They called a ton of travels in that game. I think it was like 10.
Yeah.
Or whatever the number was. But they were consistent with it. It wasn't, hey, that's a travel up until the last minute. And not just Steph Curry, but that's just, like I felt like that was an important distinguishing mark with that. Will it last? I don't know. But the one thing I'll say about this too is we have to give players credit. They will evolve.
Yes,
they will. Okay, this is going to be a travel now. I'm going to change. I'm going to and quicker than people give them credit for within the season. Like, I won't be surprised if we'll be like, man, they don't call travels anymore. And part of me is going to be like, yeah, because the players adjusted. Yeah. And it's not so much that they're missing travel calls, it's that they've adjusted. Are they going to miss travel calls? Yes. So it's being a referee is a human being is going to make errors.
Yeah.
We just have to accept it with a lot of that stuff. And that's across any sport, replay, we try to fix these things. But I think part of that is the fun element of like, well, crap, it's going to happen. You sort of have to deal with it.
Honestly, it's been a not awesome season for like last 2-minute reports. I don't know the actual numbers if the errors are up, but there've been a lot of notable.
I mean, the 2-minute report's the dumbest thing.
It is the dumbest thing. I agree with you there. But there's been a lot of, like game shifting, game changing outcome. I don't want to say outcome deciding, but the final call of a game where it's like, oh, that was a travel, or that was an offensive foul, or that was whatever. There's been a lot this year. But I was happy that they got that.
Well, the funniest thing is they blew a Sacramento King game off of a exact travel call, that exact play.
Right.
Tyler Hero gets a 3 off of a step back where he clearly traveled.
Jeremy Grant got one as well.
In Phoenix, when Portland beat Phoenix in Phoenix. So it's like, they kind of crack down going like, I bet they looked at it going like, yo, we can't have that in the end of game stuff. And I think, you know what? And as much as we just talked about players adjusting, it's good that the refs adjusted. We screwed that up. We need to crack down here a little bit.
It's also funny where I feel like, I'm going to make fun of Warriors fans. Warriors fans are like, you can't call that step back travel in the final seconds. The Warriors fans are like, they're like +3 games on last 2-minute report errors this season. Like just this season, they've had a pretty big swing. I was curious what you think about this. This is I feel moderately passionate about enforcing travels. I feel more passionate about like changes to the offensive foul and charge rule. Like I support the expand the charge circle. I've started thinking, and you tell me what you think of this, if this could be a possible fix. I've started thinking you could implement something where an airborne shooter is always protected. Like once the offensive player jumps, you got to then you have to get out of the way. You have to let the person land, or you can jump straight up. You can do verticality. But once the guy has left his feet to shoot, that guy gets a universal pass to land. Like we can't have collision. I don't care if you stood still for 15 seconds outside the charge circle and you're standing right there. When Anthony Edwards takes off and he's going to go over you, well, you got to do something now. You got to defend, you got to move, you got to jump. Like, what would be the drawback? Do you think that would be a workable fix to the
collision
process?
We're talking about just in the charge circle, right?
I'm not even talking about just in the charge circle. I'm saying much like they changed it where if you get a defender airborne, you can no longer like change your normal shooting motion. You can't lean over like I think basically airborne players should be protected. And I especially think airborne shooters should be protected. I can't think of an instance where I feel like it would be okay for the defender, even if he has quote unquote legal guarding position under the current rules, where the guy could stand there and cause a player to get undercut.
So I think I disagree with that, especially with the shooter side. And I'm a ban the charge guy. So I don't mean I'm banning the rotate over and let me just be a traffic cone and take a charge.
Okay.
You run over your primary guy, that's a charge to me. But the weak side rotating guy needs to make a defensive play. Standing still is not a defensive play to me. So that's one thing. But your point, I think the offensive player would take advantage of that. Yeah. Now they're gonna jump forward. Now they're gonna make it. It's gonna be impossible in that sense. And I think now you're talking about if I stay down on the ground as a defender, and I just contest the shot straight away, I should be in the clear. And you know what? And they do a good job with the landing zone stuff, and that's a flagrant foul now if you don't create a landing zone for the player if they land on your ankle.
Right.
But like I think and it's dangerous, but I think it's one of those things where I think you're gonna see crazy things in terms of the guys trying to draw the
might
foul.
Be true. So you say like the thing that I can't deal with or I cannot process is if you put a foot under a jump shooter, it's a flagrant foul. Yep. But if Derek White, attempts to draw a charge and it's a split second thing, and even if he quote he gets there, it's like, oh, that's an offensive foul, but it's a way more dangerous play to like undercut whoever it is going up for a dunk than it is. So like you make a great point that the offensive players, if this was the rule, if my rule were implemented, offensive players would then launch themselves probably even more violently towards their opponent. But you know what? I'd like to try it out. I'd like to see how it goes. I'd like to see what are the problems. Like anytime you change a rule, there's going to be a different problem. Anytime you plug the dam, a new thing's going to spout out. But like, I would love to see something. This is pickup basketball rule. If I'm guarding someone in basketball and they jump, I'm gonna get out of the way. I'm gonna try to block a shot, or I'm gonna get out of the way. I'm not gonna stand there like a jerk and let this guy, go crashing to the ground.
No, I'm with you on that stuff. The change I really want to see implemented more than anything else is the 2-hand push in the back when somebody's in the air.
Ooh, okay.
That
they need to be that one is hard too, because the players, try not to extend their elbow. They still push without, that's a really hard thing to referee.
But when a guy goes up in the air, like going up, we've seen it a couple of times, going up for a dunk, and we just see a 2-hand push in the back. To me, that's an automatic flagrant 2 and ejection.
That by rule, that's a flagrant, right?
That should be a flagrant.
Yeah.
But and they delineate. I don't care if the guy falls or not. That is such a dangerous play.
Yeah.
And in terms of it's hitting a defenseless receiver, right? It's the guy's up in the air to dunk, and you're just shoving him.
You did this just to get people mad about Dillon Brooks again.
No, I kind of forgot about that. Everybody stays.
Dillon Brooks played clearly insanely dirty play. He rightly got suspended. Yeah.
But the thing is too, though, it's the Dillon Brooks thing is you're either in on Dillon Brooks or you're out. There's no in the middle.
You can be in the middle. You can put your toes in. I'm allowing people to put your toe. You can identify when he does something wrong.
But once you're indoctrinated into one or the other, good luck getting to the other side.
It's basically, if you don't outright criticize Dillon, you become a disciple. That's where I'm at.
Okay, well there. So I'm no longer. So I'm on.
I'm like,
outside.
He's like the 15th best small forward in the NBA. Like that's not a controversial statement. I don't like name players who are. There's not that many, but everyone's like, oh, he kills you. So let's get off Dillon. No, I agree with you. The pushing, yes.
In the back is something I think that would be something I'd want to see them kind of regulate more than anything else with that. But just remember, my concern is when we set these things up for offensive players, they take advantage of it by trying to get to the free throw line. And let's be honest, the free throw is the most boring play in basketball.
It's so boring.
Right?
But I feel like, hey, listen, I feel like my trade-off is we're going to give this to the offensive player, but what we're going to give to the defensive player, we're going to start calling all these travels. We're going to call everything. Call all the travel, a little
that still doesn't even outweigh it. That still doesn't even outweigh it. Because really, if you want to do it, the call you have to make is the moving screen.
Oh, man.
And let me just tell you, if people were up in arms about all the whistles for the travel,
they've been doing it. There have been games this year. I don't know. I know the numbers for travels, they are up. I think we're averaging over 3 travel calls per game, which is like double what it's been in previous seasons. I would say there was, maybe this is anecdotally, there was definitely one Grizzlies game where they called every moving screen on both teams, and it was like, this is not. I don't care anymore. Just let him tackle everybody, because I don't want to, like, 10 illegal screen calls in a basketball game is hideous. Like, it was borderline unwatchable. Like, we say we want these things, and then you're giving them. It's the monkey's paw. You're giving them. You're like, no, exactly. I want to go back. I'd like to go back.
We got to go back.
Let's do let's wrap up. Let's just do real quick. What are some teams right now? Everyone's played 20 games. What are some teams in your mind that have either rounded into shape or are rounding out of shape? Maybe a post-Thanksgiving, letting themselves go a little bit.
I think one team rounding into shape is, and nobody's going to like this, is the Brooklyn Nets.
Oh, yeah.
I think, they've won a couple of games in a row. They look a little bit more, cohesive on the court, have a better understanding. Ben Simmons has looked much better. Granted, he's out right now with, I think it's an ankle injury, but
calf injury, I believe. Yeah.
Calf injury. God, this is like the 5th calf injury we've had this season.
Yeah. A lot of that going around.
It's like the flu all of a sudden.
Yeah.
It's a virus and you get the calf injury. But he as he looks better, and I always say it, he's the most important player for the Nets, because everything, we know what you're going to get from Kevin Durant. We have no idea what you're going to get from Kyrie Irving. It could be 40 or he just decides he doesn't want to play that day. But I think you have a lot going on in that he can be the stabilizing force for that team, because he can be the defender and the playmaker. And I think that's kind of what they need the most. I think they're rounding into form in a good way, where I'm watching them going like, like, I can see where this is going. I can see them going on a nice run. It doesn't mean contender or anything like that, but just I could see them clawing their way out of the hole that they dug themselves to begin the year. And we got to give Jack Vaughn credit. I think he's done a great job.
Yeah. I agree with you there. I was talking on the earlier this week on the show about, like, I think the Nets are getting good. I don't like it. I was enjoying it when they were bad. I feel like I'm kind of biased towards this team. I feel like the Nuggets are like finding maybe it's just the regular season stride. They're just like, we know how to win games. Like, we just, like, Jokic is ridiculous. And he's just like, I'm going to make every shot I shoot, basically. And I'm gonna pass it around for fun. And maybe it is just Jamal Murray getting his legs under him. Maybe that's similar to Ben Simmons. He's just coming off this missing a whole year. He's playing better and better.
Well, I think the fun thing with Denver is, I think Jokic started out the season going like, I'm not going that hard to start the year.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that in laziness or whatever. He's like, I'm going to conserve some energy. The past 2 years, he's been going all out in a way that I don't know was sustainable. And I think, you're right with your analysis. Murray getting his legs under him a little bit more and getting more comfortable. This is a team, I think they're going to have an unbelievable second half.
Yeah. I'm terrified of them. Is there a team that you think is rounding out of shape? We can close on that.
I kind of think Portland's rounding out of shape after that hot start.
They don't have Dame. Does it count? I don't know what to think.
Why? Because they won so many. They won games without
recently.
Dame.
Yeah,
like to start the year, and everybody was like, "Oh my God, Portland, this or that." And the issue is, it's not even their offense that's really kind of rounding down; it's their defense. And Dame doesn't fix that. It's not like your Dame goes out, your defense should be a little bit better. Dame comes back, your defense doesn't necessarily improve. And I feel like we're beginning to see the slip of them defensively. I mean, we've seen them struggle here. They've, in their last 10, 2 of 8. Like, that's a tough run. And yes, Dame is so important, but we're watching the stuff I'm watching from them. I didn't believe in them to begin the year when they went on that run. I didn't think it was real. I just thought it was an unbelievably hot start. And now their defense is coming back down to earth. And I think they're kind of playing to what I expected them to be.
Yeah, their schedule has been very, very difficult, so it's possible that they could get a little bit better. Yeah, I'm trying to decide. I don't know who my round out of shape is. I want to say like the most confusing team. Like, do you have any insight on the Clippers? Your Los Angeles Clippers, the team you used to work for. Like they're weird. Is it? This is going to be the year because they don't have Kawhi and they're never going to have Kawhi, or he's ever going to be okay. And so
it's just so weird in that, like the Kawhi thing, everything that they did to start the year. Kawhi's going to come off the bench when he first came back, and then it was, the thing for me with the Clippers is they don't have any offensive structure. I don't know what their plan is offensively. It gets very weird. Everything's just very isolation heavy, and that's without Kawhi and PG. Like your two best ISO guys. So I watch it and I just think, it's definitely odd, but also at the same time, like they've pulled off some games. I mean, granted, they just dropped a bad one, second night of a back-to-back, but they came back against Portland behind Norm Powell, and stuff. They're a team, I think, that we have to see if we're going to get a Kawhi and Paul George healthy and together for an extended stretch. And then our questions will either be answered or we'll have more. But I think they're the team I look at going, like, without their guys right now, it's hard to kind of really go at them.
Yeah. Well, Mo, I appreciate your time. Good having you back on. Hope you have a great trip to Vegas. Go Trojans. And I look forward to you coming on again sometime.
Thank you. Hey, I'm in. We'll figure it out. We'll make it Thursday happen.
Appreciate you, buddy.